Reddit, what was your welcome to college moment? On my first day of school it had just turned to dusk. My friends, well really only hallmates at this point, were coming back from some freshman event. As we are walking along, a man pops out of the bushes wrapped only in a yellow sheet and yells, "My metamorphosis is complete. I am a beautiful butterfly." He then threw the sheet on the ground, revealing the fact that he was completely naked underneath, and ran off into the night. I walked into my first class. I sat down. It was silent. No one was talking. Someone in the corner was playing music, but I could only hear it because of the dead silence in the room. No cliques full of girls screaming at each other about last night's party. No packs of pretty boys calling each other bro. No one cared about each other. I almost started sobbing with relief. This is the only post that has me genuinely excited to start college in a few weeks. In college, I lived in a dorm as a freshman, but moved off campus into an apartment the next year. One night, after getting completely obliterated and blacking out, I walked back to my old dorm room, I assume, thinking that was where I still lived, climbed up onto the top bunk of a bunk bed, and went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, trying to figure out what happened and why I wasn't in my own bed. Looked around and saw a guy sitting at his computer. "Where am I asked. He just turned and looked at me with a big smile on his face and said, "College, man. College. That sounds awesome." Mine happened very quickly. It was the third day of orientation, and I got up early that morning. I decided, since I was up, I might as well go do something, and I left my dorm and wandered over to the nearby shopping street. I went to a Starbucks there and bought a cup of coffee. Then, I walked back to my dorm and sat down in one of the easy chairs in the common room, just sipping my coffee and waiting for everybody to get up. I don't know why, but this all struck me as really awesome. I guess, until then, I'd been used to having my life controlled by other things, my parents, school, etc. In a weird way, this was the first action I'd ever made completely on my own, and it was amazing. Still one of the happiest moments I can remember. As someone who's going off to college next month, I like this story a lot better than the drunken shenanigans tales. I guess it was when I just left midday to hop on a train and go an hour away to another city for a BBQ. I mean, I had done that sort of thing before in HS, but I didn't have to tell anyone I was leaving. I just walked to the station and was gone for the day. Complete, 100% freedom. That freedom was so liberating. I know it's childish, but I always hated when the parents showed up. I felt like an adult my freshman year, like I was making my own way. I guess it helped that I didn't have any financial help from my own parents either, but WE. Probably the night we discovered that Pam and synthetic institutional carpet and duct tape equals indoor slip and slide. Much awesome fun was had by all and a few socks were sacrificed in the process. Even better was the campus policeman who told us to wait until he got off shift around 2 AM. Turns out he is a tuba player in band and had a crap ton of valve oil. We had an exceptionally long corridor in the basement that was linoleum and much slipping and sliding occurred. We even had the foresight to put the wet signs down after we were done. Also rolling down the hall to my dorm room because I was too drunk to stand up and walk. Ended up sleeping hunched over my lofted bed because I couldn't get in it. That's why every circle of friends needs a token Tuba Corp. My first weekend of college living in the dorms, pretty much everyone went out and got super wasted. A lot of people, particularly girls, hadn't really been drunk before and couldn't handle their liquor at all. So, everyone begins coming back to the dorms later that night and trying to seem normal as they walk through the lobby so they won't get in trouble. This hot girl in a super mini skirt begins pooping diarrhea down her leg as she walks through the lobby in front of everyone. The diarrhea is hitting the floor and leaving a trail behind her. She proceeds to get into the elevator and the poop continues to get all over the elevator. Somehow it got on the walls and the floor. The poop trail leads all the way back to her room. I never saw her again and I'm pretty sure she dropped out of college the next day in embarrassment. It was a Saturday night, and I'd just been in my room for the most part, but around 2 AM, one of my friends called me up and we decided to go hang out in another building. I go downstairs and I see a body covered with a blanket on the floor of the lobby, right in front of the security desk. Security guards need to check our ID before letting us into the dorms. There was also some kind of liquid mush staining the carpet near him. I'm a little freaked out at this point, thinking that someone had died and they had just covered the body. Nope. Turns out the kid had stumbled into the lobby after a night of heavy drinking, then fell over and threw up while trying to give the guard his ID card. This had literally happened in the last 5 minutes, so the guard just threw a blanket over the kid while waiting for help. Good guy guard. Walked into my kitchen and one of my new flatmates was cooking ketamine in a frying pan wearing only Y fronts and a pink glittery cowboy hat. It was an interesting first year. All my Chemistry 101 exam scores were between 60% and 80%. First time it happened I was shocked. Second time I knuckled down and really studied for the third exam. And the third exam I barely broke 80%. I was convinced I would have to retake it. I passed the class with a solid A. Feels good, man. This wasn't my welcome to college moment, but when my best friend and I woke up one Saturday morning we decided to start drinking Red Bull vodkas straight out of bed. Then we decided to go and blow our paychecks at the adult shop in town. We got a friend of ours to be our driver and we continued to drink. By the time we got there we were a bit tipsy and my friend found a blow up doll that wraps her legs and arms around you. He purchased it and couldn't wait to get it inflated, so he blew it up in the car. He put her on his back and walked around as she clung onto him. It was hilarious. Then we stopped into the beer store and picked up a 48 pack and decided to head back to the dorm. I was wasted by this time. The car pulls into the parking lot and I stumble out of the car and my friend and his new girlfriend exit behind me with the beer. The first people we ran into were a girl checking out the residence with both her parents. As I walked by I tried to get myself together and shot them a smile. As my friend walked by the parents with the blow-up doll strapped to him and holding a case of beer, he smiled at them and said, "Your daughter is gonna love it here, welcome to college." It was our first night out and the accommodation hall had organized loads of things for each night. This night was a bar crawl. There was a lot of drinking involved. I wake up the next morning having no clue what had happened. Still in a bit of a daze, I leave my room to go to the loo. On my way I see a girl who's from one of the rooms upstairs. "Whoa, you were pretty drunk last night," she tells me. "Wasn't everyone else?" I ask. "A number." "Not really." I then realized how much fun that year was going to be after I alienated myself on the first night out. I didn't really enjoy that place. I go to college in a foreign country, American in Hong Kong. My plane landed around 9:30 p.m. and by 11 p.m. I was moved in. I meet some of the older students and they tell me get dressed. You've got 15 minutes. Less than an hour later we're all doing shots in clubs and dancing on top of bars with people whose names I can't remember. The more time I spend here the more I hate the US drinking age. First week of my freshman year, I walked into the lounge and some girl I'd never seen before flashed me and said, "Hi, I'm Kate." My first semester at university, I was living on campus in a suite-style dorm. One of my suitemates decidid she didn't like the university housing, and she wanted to move out into private residence. How did she get out of her housing contract with the university? She married a guy she'd known for 2 weeks. Apparently there was a loophole in the contract that made marriage a legitimate way to get out. When I bombed my first midterm, realized all the girls weren't in fact pleasure-seeking women of loose morals, and that you should in fact have a good idea of what you want to do or you won't graduate on time. My parents were moving me into my dorm freshman year the week before classes start. The dorm was a co-ed freshman dorm, 8 floors high and located in a residential area of town that was mainly populated by students. The house facing the front of the dorm, directly across the street, had 5 guys living in it. As we are moving my stuff to my room, the 5 gentlemen who lived across the street displayed a banner that they had fashioned from an old white bedsheet. They unfurled it and hung it from the roof of their front porch. It read, "Fathers, thank you for your daughters." That's when I knew I was in college. Going to a party, run into my Ra. He's smoking from the bong. Turns to me and asks wanna hit it later. That night we ended up riding the elevator up together, making very high eye contact and just kind of nodding. Both of us had girls with us too. Thanks Ra bro. My freshman year Ra was pretty awesome too. His only rules were to not get caught and not, severely, hurt anyone. He'd let everyone on our hall drink smoke race naked across campus, and even introduced us to upperclassmen girls. When he graduated, most of our hall threw him a wild party, and he was hired for his dream job shortly after. Nicest guy I've ever met. I was playing basketball for a D1 school and I had come from a tiny high school. I was 6'4", and in HS that normally made me one of the 3 or 4 tallest guys on the court. Sometimes when we played small teams I was literally taller than the other team's center, even though I was a point. Our first open run was in August. I was shorter than everyone on the team except 2 guys. The first time I took a ball to the basket it was like the dang sky closed up and slapped the ball right back into my face. I had a feeling my ceiling at that level might be limited at that point. I'm 18. I can do a shot of Jim Beam for every year I am old. I was wrong. My hair is in a toilet. Welcome to college. You're actually lucky you didn't end up in the hospital. When I started college, we went to have a camping trip as an introduction. Nobody of the 150 people knew each other, including me of course. The weather from the first day on was bad. So bad that after the second day, only 5 of the 150 tents stood upright. But it was great. It was help and be helped. We suddenly became a family because of our common enemy, the weather. We helped each other holding tents, finding lost stuff, and drinking. After 2 years all of us 150 are still like a big family. The first college house party I ever attended. During the first week of freshman year, my friends and I turned the corner to see hundreds of people spilling out of this gigantic house. People on the roof, the lawn, hanging out of windows, the works, a SWAT helicopter circling the house with its light flying all over the place, and party like a rock star blasting so loud I'm sure the guys in the helicopter could hear it. Holy crap, college. Walking down the hall to my dorm, a girl I never met before says I like your sideburns. We ended up freaking all night. Never got each other's numbers. Never ran into each other again. College life. Sideburns equals insta puss. Got it. Thanks. Came to college with an anti-drug, anti-cigarette, anti-drinking mentality. First day, met my sweet mate who was a drug dealer, my roommate who was an alcoholic, and all 5 of my sweet mates had smoked cigarettes. Needless to say, every value had been desecrated. On move-in day, freshman year, I ate some mescaline right after my parents left. I watched TV for a while and got situated. After a few hours, I felt the nausea getting strong and ran to the bathroom to purge. Now, for those who don't know, a purge on mescaline peyote consists of 20 minutes to an hour of constant, violent vomiting, after which, you immediately start tripping your freaking balls off. Anyway, so, as I was puking my ever-loving guts out, my roommate, his parents, and his younger brother showed up to move his stuff in. His mother started panicking after I had been vomiting ceaselessly for, to her knowledge, at least 15 minutes. It was really closer to 30 at that point. She insisted on calling an ambulance or one of the RAs, but her husband talked her out of it long enough for me to finish up the purge. I left the bathroom and went to brush my teeth. Our sinks were in a small hallway connecting 2 dorm rooms to a shared bathroom, but I got distracted by the bristles on my toothbrush for a minute. My roommate's mom tapped me on the shoulder and kept asking if I was okay. I turned around, eyes completely dilated, and said, "Yeah, I'm good." She didn't say anything to me after that. She just walked into the dorm room and said to her husband, "Oh, he's more than fine. He's on cloud freaking 9 right now." Night before first day of class I went out drinking without a plan on how to get home. I got incredibly drunk, to the point of not being allowed into a cab. I passed out on some random person's couch near sunrise, woke up at 6 in the morning and cabbed it back to my house. I barely had enough time to grab my bag and make it back for my first class at 8:30. I attended all 5 of my classes despite being very hungover and tired. That was fun. Mine wasn't some raging party or walking in on a roommate's threesome or anything. It was more of a epiphany the second I was dropped off by the parents. Some critical background. I came from a military boarding school. I went from extreme supervision to bliss, with a summer in between. My parents dropped me off at 11th and High St. right next to the Panera at the Ohio State University. We moved in already, just ate, and done all the admin type crap you do on the first day. I was truly being released. I grew up in a relatively strict family. My parents lived in Chicago, so they were leaving for home right after this. I gave them the epic last time being under your wing hug. My mom cried with deep passion. Dad and I hugged, chatted, fist bumped, and that was it. Many times I have reflected on the feeling inside me as I sauntered the 1/8 to 1/4 mile to my dorm by myself. For the first time, I made IT. This is IT. This is college. Looking around, these are my peers and future friends. This is gonna be freaking awesome. It was a picturesque day. 70 to 75 degrees, no clouds, such vibrancy about and so much ahead of me. I've written a handful of songs and poems about it. I finally had the freedom I had been yearning and painstakingly sticking it out for. As I reflect on it now, the smile on my face is as wide as can possibly stretch. So fond. That feel, bro. No military HS for me. My dad's a colonel though, so you get the picture. Getting released like that is the greatest feeling ever. It's like breathing your own air. Worst freshman year. Coming back late on a Sunday after visiting family, only to find all the dining halls closed. So I made bagel bites in my microwave alone. Roommate went off to sleep with her, so crying because I missed my mom and realized nobody would care for me the way she does. Best went to a house party that had a water slide, live music, mud pit, and alcohol abounding. Wrestled in the mud with my friends, and shot liquor into each other's mouths with mini squirt guns. Epic dance battle commenced. Realized I would never be able to experience such reckless abandonment outside of college. I went to the day one concert provided by my college. For some reason, one of the many ska bands performing decided to have a drinking competition. 2 students were selected and began chugging 1 gallon of raspberry juice. One guy dropped out after a few chugs, and the other slammed the whole thing in a matter of seconds. Shortly thereafter, he managed to launch the whole gallon of juice from his stomach at least 10 feet from the stage. Poor front row Pete didn't even have a chance to run. On the first night we got called into one of the higher flats to play King's Cup. After every single person had whited out the window, except me, actually, because I'm Irish. One of the lads wondered if the scissors were sharp, cut his arm open, and an ambulance was called while I held the muscle up. He went to the club once his 15 stitches were sorted, pulled a girl from the building who punched him in the face, breaking his nose the following night. He's pretty much the best story guy ever. My first or second night on campus, my boyfriend was walking me back to my dorm. There was a drunk, half-naked man passed out in the bushes outside the building. A few weeks later, we went to a friend's dorm to drink. We were in the elevator, and another drunk dude got on with us. He looked at us and asks, "Yo, you mind if I pee right now?" And he did it. Every single night spent in that friend's dorm, something stereotypically college happened. Heading out to go dancing when 2 hot girls walked up to my friend and I in Academic Plaza. Apparently the whole girls swim team was playing capture the flag and wondered if we wanted to play. Now that's a good welcome to college. During Hurricane Isabel, a bunch of guys and girls from my dorm decided to streak the quad. Normally there's some ambient light or moonlight, but it was stormy and the power was out. Also the quad has these sudden sloped 4-foot drops every couple hundred feet. Sure enough, they ran as a group of about 50 and the first guy doesn't see the drop. Huge naked pile up. I went to a small liberal arts college. Needless to say the place was infested with children of rich people. We like to call those pseudo hippies trustafarians. I'm standing in the smoking area my first week of college, listening to a chick talk about how chicken nuggets give you cancer, while she was smoking an American Spirit. Welcome to hypocrisy. The first time I got drunk went out with my friends. I was like, bro, I don't have to check in with my parents. This is freaking awesome. 1. No parents. 2. Sleep anywhere. The best. Thought I didn't need to study for anything, like high school. Got an A in high school biology when I was a sophomore. Get to college, where all the professors have PhDs and teach all of the introductory classes too. Tells us to study really hard so we'll succeed. I figured, screw that. I'm smart enough. 68%. Hello college. When I moved to Humboldt State University, and our housemate threw a pound of weed on the table and said it was for the house to all use, I dang near died of happiness. Moved into the party dorm on my campus the first day of Fresh Week. As I pull up there are guys on the front lawn doing beer funnels. I had never even been in the residence before, but I had heard stories. I walk into the building to find my room and meet my roommate. As I walk in the front door I'm handed a cup of beer. I find my room, on the 3rd floor, and my roommate was already passed out, 3:30 p.m, on the floor, in nothing but his underwear. My welcome to university moment is to be when, during lunch, myself and a few friends went to a pub, got mildly drunk, then spent 20 minutes filling Coke bottles with cider from the university bar so we can continue drinking during class. That was a good first year of university. I was in the first wave of freshmen to move into dorms. The first night I went out to a party, slept in some random guy's room, on the floor, lame. The next morning I got lost trying to find my dorm. It started to rain and I was in a white shirt. Also other freshmen and their parents were moving into their dorms. I finally found my dorm and puked in a trash can in front of a bunch of people and parents. Hey, it's college. A colleague of my dad recalls his first day in a high-tier university. His first class was physics, so he sits down with the other students in the lecture hall, waits a few minutes while the professor writes some points on the board and the professor turns to the class. The professor starts talking. "Hello, class," he says dryly. "This is your first day of college. Some of you might think you're special. You might be a valedictorian of your high school, or had honors awards, or got perfect SAT scores. Look around you. There are 100 kids in this hall just like you. You're not special. Welcome to college." And then he started the lecture. My roommate was insulin dependent, wore a pump and everything. One night she drank so much she had to go to the hospital because her pump had stopped working and she was too drunk to notice. Got peed on by a drunk frat guy, punched him directly in the dong and watched him cry while his girlfriend yelled at me for being mean. Never laughed that hard in my life. Later on, said frat guy and I became friends, even though his scene wasn't my scene. Diversity. My row got completely wasted the first weekend. Came back to the dorm and threw up all over himself in the hallway. He then proceeded to spray his entire thrown up on shirt with spray fixative and leaves it to dry on the balcony off the hall. Confused? I'll explain. It was an art school. I was in college 2 weeks before losing my virginity, and then I woke up next to a different girl the next weekend, and so on. Yeah, I was sort of a man W my freshman year. Also, the first time me and my roomie met was the week before classes started so we had nothing to do really. It was the middle of the afternoon. We were drunk and walking around inside of the building with a wild pigeon my roommate somehow caught with his bare hands. When we bumped into her, was given my alpha code, told that the first and last word out of my mouth from that point on would be "so mom." Got my head shaved and had to memorize reef points. The Naval Academy is the gayest thing I've ever seen. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.